Hey guys, how's it going? Comparing here. So today I participated in my second Hearthstone tournament. I took this one a little bit more seriously than the previous one, which did not end that well, but actually ended about the same way this time. I took about a few hours previous day prior to the tournament to get a deck ready. I ended up going with a pretty slow Paladin deck, just because I wanted a deck that had a pretty good chance of winning against all decks. And the previous tournament, the way I constructed the deck, it was good against everything that didn't have massive board clear. And some decks were pretty much designed around massive board clear, like the Druid deck. And I ended up losing to a Druid deck. How about that? This time around, the tournament was also an invitational, so it didn't really have, let's say, as many people participating as I would have liked. I'm still kind of curious to see statistically what kind of decks come out on top. Now everyone knows rogues are like overpowered and all that, but largely that reason is because all of their ridiculous cards are common. So it's very prevalent in arena. Half your deck is ridiculous. Where if you're playing constructed, classes that have really good rares and really good epic cards and sometimes really good legendaries will shine much more than arena. And this happens to be the case with a few classes, in my opinion, largely the Druid and the Shaman. Those are classes that have extremely powerful cards that, they're really well complemented by the higher rarity cards. And no surprise, this tournament had its fair share of Druids. In fact, I think Druid was the most popular class, and the final ended up being a Druid versus the Druid. And the Druid deck is pretty typical. You get a lot of direct damage, you get few creatures that are very efficient, and you just win late game based on your efficiency. And that's about it. And the deck hasn't really changed since I lost to it against Wreckful in the previous tournament 1 month back. And this time around, I played my Paladin deck, the much slower one. I played it yesterday, and all I kept queuing into was Druids. I lost to 1 out of the 7 or 8 that I played. I lost 1 match, because I was queuing rank, not against specific people. So I felt pretty confident that, if there's a way to beat a Druid, it's this way. And unfortunately, I got a kind of an unlucky draw, but overall it was pretty close in my first match against the Druid. I ended up losing that one, and by the rules of the tournament you can change cards in your deck while remaining to your class for the second match. He changed his deck entirely into like an anti-Paladin deck with like Blood Knights and shit, so I got pretty destroyed by that. And yeah, may have come back in the game, but he drew a silence and he got the kill that way a little bit earlier than I thought he would. And I got knocked out of the tournament. I ended up, there were 4 Paladins at the start, and I made it the furthest. I beat a Rogue 2-0, and I beat a Mage 2-0, and those are both pretty easy matches. Though the Rogue one was pretty close, but at the same time, I'm running a slow Paladin deck against a Rogue deck, so it's always going to be close if I win. Then I played against a Druid. That happened. And then I played against Trump's Rogue deck, and I had some really shit draws, and he seemed to have some pretty good ones, so that ended pretty badly for me. But overall, I've grown to be, a little bit more appreciative of what's going on in the constructed scene. Some of the decks are pretty complex, but I think more than anything, what Blizzard has to do is introduce more concepts, and probably either nerf or buff certain cards in a class so there's some diversity. And this is the main reason why I like the Paladin, by the way, because the Paladin, you can play a really slow Paladin deck, you can play a really fast Paladin deck, there's a whole spectrum, you can play any way you want. It's all about equally effective. Some versions of the Paladin are weaker against some classes than others, but, typically there's that. But when you consider like the kind of Druid decks that people are playing today, everyone is pretty much playing the same shit. And, with Rogue, there is some diversity as well. I'm not going to go into all the classes, but when you compare like Paladin to Druid, you see a really big difference to where Paladin can play like any way possible, and Druid really, I guess it can, but they're not effective at it. Not as much as Paladin, at least. And I think that's a little bit of a problem, because once you introduce a larger force of competition into the game, these are going to be really identified, and it's going to be really standardized, so everyone's going to play the same shit pretty much. So to fix that, I feel they either need to tone out a few things, make it so the diversity is consistent among all the classes, or just add a bunch of shit to the game, especially if they're able to do that on a regular basis where the game keeps changing. So even if something's really overpowered, it might be, it might not be the best the next time there's a tournament or there's an event or something like that. But overall, Hearthstone's pretty fun. My thoughts are largely the same as they were after the first tournament, where I kind of feel the competitive scene in Hearthstone in its current state is a little bit lacking, and that's probably why we haven't seen too many tournaments, though the few that have happened, a lot of people are interested, and as far as it's going, I guess it's going pretty well overall. But I think they do need to improve to keep the attention of all the viewers and all the people playing. So we'll see what happens. Hope you guys enjoy the tournament, and I'll see you guys tomorrow.